Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you how to finish off your Kumihimo flat braid ends. So I have a bracelet here that I've made, and as you can see, I've got the ends which are finished off, and I'm using ribbon crimps to finish off the ends. If you're familiar with a round braid Kumihimo, you know that we have a couple different options for finishing off those ends, either wrapping the braid several times using like an S-lon or a different type of thread, or using tape. Those methods don't really work with the flat braid because they make it too chunky to fit into your ends. So we need to find a different way of finishing it. And the way we're going to do here is going to be using a needle and thread, which I've actually just gone ahead and threaded right here. Any type of thread will do. I happen to have some NYMO thread around, so that's going to work fine. If you have a sewing machine, you can definitely even sew the end in the same manner that we're going to hand stitch it, but since not everybody has a sewing machine, I was going to show the hand stitch method. So if we were to just take our Kumihimo braid, I've got a flat braid here and I'm actually going to do a double wrap bracelet with it. So if we were just to go ahead and take this off of our cord right here or cut the knot, we would end up with this. And this is not going to work. There's no way you're going to be able to fit a ribbon end over this. So what we need to do is we need to sew a line to stitch your cords together. So first off, go ahead and remove your Kumihimo weight from the knot and go ahead and place it up top. So now we can safely remove our strands from our Kumihimo disc, and I've already removed the bobbins, but this is going to stay put now, and I'm actually going to scoot it just a little bit up further just so that it's got all these loose ones up top and we have nice solid braid where it's not pulling apart at all right below the alligator clip here in our Kumihimo weight. So what we now need to do is we need to determine what size of a ribbon end cover we're going to need. And to do that, I've got a digital caliper. Now you can just do this with a ruler, but I wanted to show you with the digital caliper because it's a little bit more graphic for the video. So we're going to measure the width of our braid, and it's 9.9. So it will work perfect for the 10mm ribbon cord end. I actually brought over a 16mm one as well, but I can tell that that's just going to be too big for this particular braid. So I'm going to go with the 10mm one. And so what I want to do is you don't want to cut any of your cords yet. You're going to want to sew a line first using just some needle and thread. And what we're going to do is I use black for the video's sake, so you can see it a little bit better, but you would use a color that would blend in with your braid. Go ahead and start by threading a needle with thread, tying a knot at the end, and just in the middle of your braid towards your knot, go ahead and just start a stitch line. And it doesn't have to be the most beautiful stitching in all the world. You want to try to get as straight of a line as possible. But again, this is going to get covered up, and so you don't have to be too concerned with how it looks. It's more important that it's straight, because we're going to have to cut very close to the line, so we don't want it to be too wobbly. And we're just going to go back and forth. And when you get to the end, I want you to whip around and over. And pull snug. Now we're just going to go back in the other direction. If it would help you, you can go ahead and just draw a line with a marker just right where you want to stitch, so you can just make sure you stitch on that line. Just make sure that it blends in enough with your braiding, just in case you end up seeing it a little bit. Okay, again, I got to the end, so I'm going to whip around and pull, and now I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to do this about 3 times. I'm going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm using a pretty thin thread, so it's not going to really add to the bulk of my braid. I just want to catch any of the little loose threads, because if you're using like a rat tail, you can see that it kind of shreds a little bit. So you want to make sure that you catch any of those loose threads, because we are going to cut this right up along the edge. Okay, once I've passed over about 3 times, back and forth, which actually you could call 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to go back in the middle, and I am going to go ahead and make a knot with my thread. So I'm just going to grab under one of my thread bridges, pull. I'm going to go through it twice actually. Let it pull down, and I'm going to do that again. All right, I'm happy with that. I'm actually going to just stitch the tail into it a little bit just for an added measure. Okay, now I'm just going to snip it off with a pair of scissors. So we're done with that part, and you can see I've got my line here. It's not beautiful, it's not perfect. You'll be using a thread that blends in. But now what I can do is I can go ahead and right up close to it, but not cutting any of my thread, cut off this end. And then I can actually trim it a little bit too. And so you see how that's not shredding? So that's keeping that really nice and contained. So now what we need to do is we need to apply the ribbon crimp end cover here to the braid. What we need to do that is use some glue. And I've got some E6000 right here, which is my favorite glue. And I've got a head pin. You can use a scrap piece of wire, a toothpick, anything you like. Basically, we just want to be able to put a little bit of glue on the inside of the ribbon crimp. So we're just applying this to the interior of the crimp. It's just going to give a little added security there and make sure that the ribbon stays in there. So now just go ahead. Put your braid into the crimp. A little bit of glue is going to squish out. We can just wipe that away. Try to get any loose little hairs and fibers from the thread to stick inside there. And now I've got a pair of nylon jaw pliers, and I'm just going to go ahead and crimp the ribbon crimp. And that is going to stay secure on there. And now again, it actually helps that you have the glue, because the glue is going to help to keep those little ends secure and tucked away. And there we've just finished one end of our flat braid Kumihimo. And so we'll just go to the other end and we'll do the exact same thing. You're not going to remove your Kumihimo weight or whatever you're using to secure your end until you've actually stitched that line, but it's going to be the exact same method. Just go ahead, thread a needle with some thread, stitch back and forth, back and forth. When you've got that secure, cut it, and then you'll just apply the other ribbon crimp the same way you did on this end. And that is how you finish a flat Kumihimo braid.